store and buy a new skin. That's not going to work. Character, who you really are deep inside your being. And that is a part of the equipment of how we win victory in daily spiritual warfare. Moral righteousness, godliness. I preached a sermon one time since I've been here on godliness and what it means. Holiness, godliness. It means showing the world that we're different, that we're not like the world. Because you see, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. You remember a sermon I preached not too awful long ago about Christ is me. From Colossians, Christ is. If you're a Christian and you're living the right kind of life, you're the representative of Christ. You're the Christ that a lot of people see. That's why conduct and character are important. What about the boots? The boots they put on. Well, they weren't the combat boots that we see our soldiers wearing today. And you've seen pictures of these. They were like sandals on the toe. They were open on the toe because they didn't get in an armored vehicle and ride. They had to walk, did they not? The Roman soldiers walked. And in those day and time, having where your toes could breathe was really important. And that's what they did. And then they had straps that came all the way up. And oftentimes you'll see in these movies, the straps of these Roman soldiers, they'll come up to here. Strapped on, attached. Some boots had some steel things on the bottom that gave them a firm foundation. Gripped. Boots. What's the boots? Gospel of peace. What's he talking about, the gospel of peace? I think he means the readiness to announce the good news. See, keep in mind, he's writing this to Christians. Are you ready? Are you alert? He says, be instant in season and out. Be ready to give a testimony. We ought to be ready to give a witness. I believe that the Christian person that's ready to give a witness at whatever turn the day may take is a person who's equipped with the gospel of peace in his heart. You see, peace is important. Jesus was a peacemaker. We're told that we can be peacemakers when we share Christ's love with other people. Nothing brought peace to this teenager's life, now that was a long time ago, you know that, than when I let Christ come in and take charge of my life. And I was no longer anxious over what I would become or who I was. Things that I'd worried about before, they weren't nearly as important. Peace. Do you have peace in your heart? If Jesus lives inside you, you should have peace in your heart. He's the source of peace. See, when we look to the outside world and circumstances to determine our peace, we're never going to find it. But when we rely on Him in His strength and His power, He provides the peace for us. And I think that being ready to share a witness, the gospel of peace, with other people, prepares us daily for spiritual warfare. Jesus taught on peace in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, what we call the Sermon on the Mount. One of the things He taught was, happy or blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Sons by adoption. That's who we are as believers. We become the children of God by adoption as we're adopted into His family. Are you carrying the banner of the cross? That's the banner of peace, the gospel of peace. Are you ready to share? If God brought someone to you tomorrow on the job, regardless of where you work, are you ready to share a witness for Him and tell somebody what He's done for you? how He changed your life? If you are, then you're equipping yourself for spiritual warfare. Then he goes on to talk about the shield of faith. Now, this wasn't just this little round thing that some guys carry in the movies today. Now, that's not going to shield us from very much. Listen to this. It's a Latin term, S-C-U-T-U-M, scutum. That's what it was called. It was a large shield. Listen to this. It was 1.2 meters by 0.75 meters. That's about 47 and a quarter inches tall, almost 4 foot tall, by 29 and a half inches. That's a pretty good chunk of material, wasn't it? How'd you like to carry that around all day long? Roman soldier had to be pretty strong, right? Composition of this shield, 2 layers of wood, overlaid and covered with linen and with a hide on the outside. And it was bound at the bottom and the top with iron. I couldn't find exactly how much it weighed, but it was heavy. Something heavy to carry around. Wow. That kind of shield could protect you from a lot of arrows and darts, right? From the enemy. And Paul says, our shield is faith. What is faith? Faith's the gift of God. It's not something that I said, well, I'm going to muster up some faith today. No, that's not what faith is. Faith is a gift of God. That's what His Word teaches us. Given to us freely by God Himself. In fact, we need that faith in order to become a Christian, according to earlier chapter in Ephesians, chapter 2. For by grace are you saved, through faith. And that not of yourselves. It's the gift of God. Faith is a gift of God. He gives that to us. One man has defined faith thusly. I like this definition. Oswald Chambers, Kenny. Oswald Chambers. Faith is not intelligent understanding. Faith is deliberate commitment to a person, capital P, that means Jesus, to a person where I can see no way. When I look at something and see it as impossible, there's no way it's going to happen. But I believe, God, that through you and your strength and your power, that can take place. And my commitment is to you. My faith is in you. Now that's a big faith. Like a shield, like the shield. It's a big faith. Now, these Roman shields that they carried around were intended to deflect or extinguish incendiary arrows. In fact, if you read in the passage of Scripture here that's talking about this, that's exactly what it says. In addition to all taking up the shield of faith, verse 16, with which you are able to extinguish all the flaming missiles of the evil one. Back in those days and time, they'd dip an arrow in some tar and shoot that arrow. That's what they would do. It was a part of the warfare in that particular day and time. Now, what are the arrows of fire that are shot at us today? What kind of arrows do we need a shield as large as 4 foot tall by 30 inches wide to deflect? How about deliverance from doubt? Ever fought that battle? Does Satan ever attack you with doubt? Oh, you really weren't saved back whenever, because if you were, you wouldn't have done what you just did. Does he ever attack you that way? He does me. How about thoughts of disobedience to God? Rebellion against God. God, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it my way. I've been there, done that. What about hatred? Wow. Mistrust. Or just plain old fear. He can get us down by causing us to be so afraid that it gets us down. See, the devil shoots all those kinds of incendiary arrows at us each and every day. Some of that's going to come our way. But remember, faith is not intelligent understanding, but it's deliberate commitment to a person, that is Jesus, where I can see no way. Then he has the helmet of salvation. Now the helmet, one other thing that I want to say about the shield. Sometimes, no, that has to do with the helmet. I'll get onto that in a minute. The helmet of salvation. The helmet was tough metal, like bronze, maybe iron that they used back in that day and time, and it was lined with felt. Ew, that'd be hot. It wasn't like your normal football helmet with the thick foam padding inside. It was lined with felt. Oh, that would have been hot. Sometimes it had a hinged visor here at the front so they could see through it, or they could click it up here at the top and get it out of the way. And it took something like an axe or a hammer to pierce such a heavy helmet. It was almost invincible. That's what the Roman soldier wore. And you know what? They often decorated them. You know what I thought about when I thought about this? A hockey goalie. I mean, these goalies, man, they got these masks, you know, these hockey masks. And they all look different. It's individualized, right? You know, maybe the Roman soldiers would individualize their own helmet. I don't know. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 8 talks about the hope of salvation. Now, hope to a believer in Jesus Christ, to a Christian, as the word hope is used in the New Testament, it's not, I hope it doesn't rain today because I got a picnic planned. That's not that kind of hope. It's not like the weatherman says, I sure hope it comes a rain tomorrow because we hadn't had rain in 90 days. I was down in Phoenix, as you know, about a month or so ago at the Southern Baptist Convention. They normally get 3 inches of rain the first 6 months of the year. They'd had 1 inch up until that time. I hope it rains, was what the weatherman was saying down there. See, no, it's not hope with a question mark. Hope to the believer is the blessed assurance that Jesus is going to deliver on what he promised when he died on the cross for our sins, which is our salvation. When God makes a promise, there's one thing God can't do. The book of Hebrews says there's one thing God can't do. You know what that is? Lie. God can do anything else he wants to, but he won't go back on his word. He doesn't lie. God's not a liar. If God says something's going to be one way, that's the way it's going to be. You can bank on it. You can take that one with you. So when he says the hope of salvation, that means I'm waiting patiently. I'm not there yet. It's going to happen in my life, either when Jesus comes again or when I die and go back to the dust I came from. It's going to happen again. I'm just walking along with him in that. And it also means, I believe, the realization in our lives of forgiveness. Do you realize how bad a sinner you really are? I mean, I think I'm a bad enough sinner that if I'd been the only sinner on a planet, that he would have died for me. Our sin sent Jesus to the cross.